I mean, I'm going to be real with you. Looking at this 236 card, I don't know how we're going to do a whole show around these fights. I mean, they're trash.
I don't know, man. Like, I hate to use the word trash, especially when Max is involved, but
yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, you got a couple of good fights there. I mean, really good fights, strong fights. But aside from that, man, the other three bouts there, man, I'm not interested. I'm not interested.
Hey, man, we got to give the fight fans their weekly fix.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do, right? Let's go ahead and start the show.
You are now listening to Fight Culture with Jay Medina and Jay Fonzarelli.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 2 of Fight Culture Podcast. I am your host, Jay Fonzarelli, and along with me, as always, my co-host, Jay Medina. Meds, how have you been this week?
Oh, man, I've been in withdrawal, in MMA withdrawal, man.
Same here. You know, Meds, we really haven't had any MMA action this week to really talk about, but we did have a couple of former UFC fighters duke it out in a sport not many people may have heard about. And I say we go ahead and talk about that in this week's Fight Rewind.
Fight Rewind.
Of course, I'm talking about Bare Knuckle Boxing 5, where in the main event we had Jason Knight taking on Artem Lobov. Now, Lobov would go on to win the decision here in a fight where I basically would describe as being, well, a bloodbath, Meds. Like, what did you take away from this fight?
Oh, man, just carnage, gory and brutal. It was like a game of Gears of War. Like, it was insane. And it was not crisp, high-level technique going on here at all. But, man, was it entertaining.
No, man, was it ever entertaining. I don't think I've seen anything this brutal in a long time, to be honest. I thought that these were just two men just being just so aggressive, two alpha males just beating each other. And it shows, the proof is on their face. And I'm going to put pics up on this video here so you guys can see it. It's crazy what happened to these two. This is, I think, the aftermath of this fight. I don't know if you saw the pictures of Jason Knight, but somebody described it. Somebody described it as being like a one of the extras on The Walking Dead, you know, one of the zombies. And he hit the nail on the head because that's what it looks like. He looks like a zombie.
Yeah, Jason the Kid Knight. And he scars up really easily. He's just one of those guys.
Yeah.
And, man, those guys took a piece of the other guy home with them.
Oh, man.
I just hope they got paid well.
Dude, you couldn't pay me enough to fight bare knuckle like that. It's just insane what those people go through. And these two, like you said, man, they just stood right in front of each other and just beat each other. I mean, there was no real technical aspect about it. It was just they were throwing hands. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And
wild, man. I'm sorry. I was going to ask, did you think it was a good decision?
Yeah, I do. I think Lobov got the win. I think he should have got the nod. Now, do I think it was a landslide? No, not at all. I think both fighters really came away with some good licks on each other, bro. If anybody out there missed this fight, you can catch it on YouTube, okay? It's out there. Watch this fight. It's crazy. If you're a boxing fan, again, throw technical aspect out the window. But if you like to see people throw hands, this was the fight.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about these bare knuckle organizations that are popping up is that they're not even getting boxers to fight for them. They're getting all MMA guys.
Yeah, it seems like they're getting a lot of, I hate to put it this way, but some washed up MMA fighters or fighters that just didn't make the cut or got thrown out of organizations, we'll say.
Yeah, Lobov and Knight had just recently gotten cut from the UFC. And you know what this match sets up, right?
Yeah, I do. Why don't you tell the fans that?
It sets up the match of the year. Artem, the GOAT Lobov versus Paulie. It wasn't a knockdown Malignaggi. Oh, man. Yeah,
I can't wait for that. And I texted you that over the weekend. I was like, man, I can't wait for that fight because I knew it was coming. I suspected Lobov was going to win this fight. I really was thinking he was going to win it, but I was pulling for him because of the fight, the potential fight with Paulie. So I think they were going to make that fight anyway, regardless.
Yeah, even if Artem lost, they were going to do it.
Hey, we're not huge fans of bare knuckle, but look, we watch the fights. We watch all the fights, you and I, Meds. I mean, even if it's a big boxing match, we'll watch
degenerates.
It. Yeah, we are, basically. But there was no MMA action to be had this weekend.
News Corner.
Let's talk a little bit about Tony Ferguson. Meds. Now, something we didn't really touch on is the whole CTE thing going on with him.
Yeah.
Now, apparently, this sort of, brain damage, for lack of a better word here. I mean, it's basically what it is, right? There's something that's happening to the brain of people that's getting knocked around a lot in the head. It happens to football players, it happens to a lot of sports stars out there, if they get hit in the head a lot. And unfortunately, it seems like they're saying Tony is going through something like this. And I don't know if you read the article, Meds, but I read an article where his wife has recently put a restraining order against him for her and their son. And the good thing is that there was no physical violence towards her or her son as of yet, and hopefully never. But so that is a good thing, that he's never hurt them. But he's done some things around the house that has really scared her enough to do this and put this restraining order against him. He was going around saying that he was hearing people in his walls, and he was changing the locks on his doors and destroying his home. And I mean, these are all things that are being said by his wife, I guess. So, I mean, I feel really bad because Tony's a great guy. He's a great fighter. I don't know him personally, but he seems like a great guy anyway. What's your thoughts on this, Meds?
Well, firstly, it's saddening. It makes me sad personally. It's just a huge fan of Tony's. And this is how the story ends for a lot of fighters, That's what happens when you take so many hits to the head. And on top of that, she, Christina Ferguson, I believe her name is, she was saying that it's being exacerbated by alcohol consumption, and that he's been drinking heavily. And if you saw The Ultimate Fighter, Tony Ferguson had a very, very ugly moment in the house where, he attacked one of his teammates verbally when he was really, really drunk. And, it was nasty to see back then. And obviously he's taken a lot more damage from then to now. And it just all seems like a very bad combination. She said that he was claiming that she put a computer chip in his leg and that she was a witch, and he was throwing water at her, like holy water at her. And, it's just very disturbing. People are wondering when Tony's going to come back, but I don't even know if he's ever going to come back from this. And I just hope that he can get everything in order and, eventually come back and entertain the fans and be reunited with his family, once again.
Definitely. I hope so. I hope it's, I hope it's soon. And I know that sounds selfish, but at the same time, he's a great fighter, but I want to see him get better. So whatever it takes, the amount of time it takes, if he can never return, I'll accept that. Okay. I just want to see what's best for him, his child, and his wife. I mean, that's the most important thing here. I don't know if you saw the recent tweet, though. He put out a tweet recently, just yesterday, in fact, and he was calling out Conor and Khabib. Now, Meds, in the tweet he writes, "You were finished, tapped out, and quit like a bitch. Now you're stepping on my toes, you false idols. At Notorious MMA, at Paradigm SM, and at Team Khabib. Ready when you are, fathead. Don't dodge me like UFC 209, coward. No loyalty to the game. Signed, Real Champ. And you see the picture there. What do you think about this?
I like how he has, in the picture of the tweet, he has his Ultimate Fighter trophy and his championship belt. I like that. Listen, man, Tony Ferguson, like many people, like myself, is tired of this back and forth, which we're going to touch on. With Conor and Khabib. Conor's obviously, in the most disgusting way, trying to angle for a rematch with Khabib. Like, nobody wants to see that. I don't want to see that. I don't think you want to see that. We saw what happened. The guy got dominated. He got tapped out, embarrassed. It's not going to go any different. The only person who has a chance at Khabib is Tony Ferguson. And I think he's just reminding the world, like, yo, I'm not dead. I'm coming.
Yeah.
Because the more, people stay silent and just let this play out, the more easy it is to just weasel in a Conor Khabib rematch, which is not what I want.
No, I don't either. And to be honest, if Tony is in the clear and, there's nothing, he gets cleared to fight and he's on the straight and narrow, he's doing well, he's not drinking, his brain is good. I would think Tony Ferguson would beat Khabib.
I think he could even submit him.
Yeah, I think so too. Tony is one of those guys. He's one of the very few that could, stand on the feet or take it to the ground against Khabib and destroy him, I think.
He could even beat him from the bottom with a stick triangle.
Yep,
This is a fight that, man, I've been dying for years now, and it has to happen. The only person I want to see fight Khabib is Tony or the winner of Max Poirier. He's not deserving.
Here's the problem with Max and Poirier. I think both those fighters are just way too small for Khabib.
Yeah, maybe. They're both former 45ers, and Khabib should probably fight at 70. But it is about who's the most deserving, and why are we going to put on these interim title fights if we're not going to honor them?
It's true, but I think that lately the UFC has been going down the rabbit hole of like doing super fights and trying to get the money fights going rather than giving people,
what they deserve.
Exactly. And that's been happening a lot. So I see your point, but again, Khabib is a big dude in the octagon. When he gets in there, when he's well hydrated, he's, after the weight cut, he's huge for that division. Like you said, he could go to 170.
Yeah, he'd do well there. I would love to see him versus Usman. Now that's a champ fight I'd like to see right there.
But see, Usman, he's a big dude too, man. He's a big guy. I think he's big for 170. That's the thing about these weight classes and these weight cuts and stuff. I wish more fighters would fight at their weight, kind of like Frankie Edgar did.
We could just stop the weight cutting, man.
If we could, in a perfect world, that'd be great. If they had a 165 division, it would help out a lot. Lots of fighters are pushing for that.
Man, Dana White said the other day, he said, I know that people keep bringing it up, but as long as I'm president of the UFC, it's not happening.
Yeah.
And, he's lied about stuff in the past, but he seems real steadfast in this right now.
Yeah. Man, I've got a love-hate relationship with Dana. I really do. Like
with Dana, right?
Yeah. Sometimes I love the guy. I love what he's done for the sport. But other times I'm like, dude, you're ruining it at the same time. It's weird, but that's the way I feel with Dana. Now, let's go ahead. We touched on this a bit about Conor McGregor and Khabib and what they got into on Twitter. If you've been living under a rock, you may not have heard, but Conor said some disgusting things towards Khabib, and Khabib came back with some disgusting things. And one of the things is like, and I'll post it here, he said that your wife is a towel, and he showed a picture of him marrying his wife that's, of course, in a veil, a very thick veil. But, it was a joke that he made, but it was a terrible joke. It basically made fun of his religion. In fact, because they wear those, I forgot what they're called.
A hijab, I believe.
Okay. But yeah, so
I could be wrong. Forgive me, people out there.
Yeah, we could be wrong on that. But at the same time, like, you don't say things like that. So, of course, Khabib came back calling him basically a rapist. And, with all the stuff he's going through with the sexual allegations going on in Ireland, like, that's crossing the line as well. So they both went at each other pretty hard. And I guess Dana got involved, phoned them both. And interestingly enough, this is what we got from Conor as a response. All right. So basically Conor says, I want to move forward with my fans of all faiths and all backgrounds. All faiths challenge us to be our best selves. It is one world and one for all. With a little heart emoji there, for good measure. Now see you in the octagon. What? I thought you retired. What happened?
I thought you were retired. What happened, bro?
So this is, again, we said it on the last show, on our first show, that we didn't believe he was really retired. This is just a ploy to try to bargain with, the UFC, pretend to retire so they'll come back with you with a money bag or something. And it's obvious. And now the guy's saying, see you in the octagon. He's not going anywhere. We know he's a trash talker. He's a great trash talker. One of the best of all time in the sport. But you don't go after somebody's religion like that. That's crossing the line in a big way. Or their family. Exactly.
So with a double whammy in one tweet. I couldn't believe it, man. I can't believe he said that.
Yeah.
And Khabib shot back at him, not only with the tweet about, the rapist comments, but later he essentially threatened Conor. He said, to paraphrase, he said, you think you'll be safe after insulting 1.5 billion Muslims?
Yeah.
That's ugly, man. And he's right.
to go further too, before he responded with that, I believe Conor also doubled down with it and said that, how did he say this?
There's a goat under the towel.
Yes. He tried to be clever and funny with it, but essentially that's what it was, that there was a goat under there. Who does that? Like that to me is crazy.
The thing that kind of bothers me about it, because thinking on it, I kind of think that the only reason Dana even stepped in and said something to them is because Khabib came out with the the rapist comment.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, first of all, these allegations have been circulating for a while now. Only now have come, to a more mainstream eye because of the New York Times article. You haven't heard a single fighter say a word about it. And that's way too fishy. Like that cannot be a coincidence. That to me sounds like Dana White put out a gag order on everybody.
Probably.
And Khabib broke that gag order. So Dana White has to be fuming right now because Conor McGregor, whether he's quote unquote retired or not, he's the face of the UFC. And this looks bad on them. It brings negative attention towards them. So Dana White had to nip that in the bud. He should have stepped in on this back then, back when they were doing the promo for the fight the first time, because it crossed the line back then, and Dana White didn't reel Conor in, and you saw what happened, and now it's getting even more out of control. I fear for Conor's safety, man.
With what he's been saying, you have every right to fear that. I don't know, man, but I want to get past this whole negative stuff. Let's just go ahead and get into some voicemails. This week we got one from the Bronx, it looks like.
Hey, my name is Joe Lorenzo. I'm from the Bronx. I had a quick question. I haven't heard anything about Khabib in a long time. I was wondering, when do you think he's going to return, and who do you think he's going to fight next? And do you think he's going to be off his game after such a long absence? Thanks so much. Look forward to hearing.
All right. Thank you, Joe Lorenzo, of the Bronx.
From the Bronx. That's my old stomping grounds.
That's your old stomping grounds. Nice. Thank you very much for the question, Joe. It's an excellent question. Before we answer it, though, I want to say that for those that don't know, Khabib has been out of the octagon because he's currently serving his 9-month suspension in his role for the aftermath that took place back at 229, UFC 229. I believe it was in October when he beat Conor and that whole scuffle happened with teammates and all that stuff. Anyways, so he's serving that 9-month suspension. Now, how much will this affect him coming back? Meds, I'll let you answer this. Will this affect Khabib at all?
Not one bit. I remember him taking off 2 years and coming back and destroying this poor man named Daryl Horcher.
Oh, man.
He was facing Daryl Horcher, who was a serious step down in competition, but Khabib dominated him as he should. And he's been on a tear ever since, so I think he's going to be just fine.
Yeah. No, I think the same thing, man. Like, I don't think it's going to, to me, who said it in the UFC that said that ring rust wasn't a real thing?
Dominic Cruz.
I kind of believe that in a way because these fighters are constantly training regardless. I think that these fighters don't really get the ring rust. I think what it comes down to is maybe they could have, I guess, potentially some nerves, being in the spotlight again, maybe on TV, maybe. But I don't think their fight game takes a hit, really. I really don't think so.
I think maybe ring rust can perhaps affect the fighter with not that much experience. But once you've been in there as many times as a guy like Khabib has, this is second nature. This is what you do. So
yeah, totally.
He's gonna be fine. As to when he'll return, so he is serving that 9-month suspension, and he did claim that he was going to sit out even longer because his teammates were suspended for a year, and he said he would honor their suspensions. Yeah. So it's going to be a year, and I'm hearing. I read, I don't remember if it was Bloody Elbow or maybe just Twitter, that they're targeting him for a show in Abu Dhabi in September, I believe, which would be about 11 months after, the UFC 229 incident. But that sounds really good to me. I think that's a really good plan. Put him, in the Abu Dhabi's where the United Arab Emirates, right?
Yeah.
In the middle of the Muslim world, sell it out. Khabib is a superstar out there.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah. Just don't do it with Conor out there because he might lose his life.
Man.
So let's make it maybe Holloway, Poirier winner or Tony.
Man, Again, I just think they're too small, but I hear what you're saying, though. I understand, the whole deserving thing, and, but
Got to fight somebody, man.
all right, Meds, let's go ahead and switch gears. Let's go ahead and pick some fights.
We pick 'em.
We have UFC 236 coming up. And, well, as you heard at the top of the hour, when we started talking coming into this show, this card, it kind of sucks.
It really, really does.
And, so we're only going to really talk about 2 fights here. And, of course, that's going to be the Holloway-Poirier fight and the Kelvin Gastelum and Israel Adesanya fight. That's all we're going to talk about. So let's get into the Kelvin and Adesanya fight. All right, Meds, who wins and how?
Okay, so Kelvin and Israel Adesanya. Hell of a matchup. I've got to take Adesanya.
I'm on the opposite side, bro. But go ahead, tell me why.
Why am I taking Adesanya? Here's why. On the Adesanya side, the guy looks better every time he's in there. They have slowly been giving him a little bump in competition every time. And the guy just keeps exceeding my expectations, at least, and wowing me. He's truly, for me, a marvel. His striking, it looks like he's not even hitting guys hard, and they're falling. It's like it's because, and he said it. He says, "I don't throw and pray. I aim and fire." The guy finds the target. He knows where the button is, and he hits the button, and he's going to take you out. And he's impossible to take down. This guy gets taken down, hits a Granby roll. I've seen him do a Kimura escape, which he's a kickboxer. This guy is so well-rounded, and he's deceptively well-rounded because his kickboxing looks so high level that you think maybe he's neglecting the other parts of his game, but he's absolutely not. I've got him by 3rd round TKO. And on the other side of the coin, to touch on Kelvin. Kelvin, firstly, needs a coach in his life, a nutritionist, somebody, because he's not an 85er. Every time I see him, he looks like he has really short arms compared to the competition.
Mm-hmm.
He looks flabby, he looks like a bloated welterweight, which is exactly what he is. And he has a lot of speed for 185. But the thing is that Israel Adesanya he's a very small 85er. He could probably make 170 himself. So he's got a lot of speed on him. And Kelvin Gastelum, his striking, and I've watched a lot of Kelvin fights, it's really all smoke and mirrors. Like, he gets a lot of TKOs and a lot of KOs, but Kelvin Gastelum has one punch, and it's a left hand. That's one. That's all he's got. His right hand is only ever there to distract you from the fact that he's about to throw the left one. That's all he's got is the left hand. And for somebody who's got all 8 tools of Muay Thai and Israel Adesanya, I don't see Kelvin Gastelum figuring that puzzle out. Yeah,
you come to the table with some great points, but I have to counter by saying all it takes is one punch. That's all it takes. And we've seen him do it time and time again. We've seen him do it to great strikers. I mean, you look at, his competition and the people he's lost to. I mean, they're great guys. You have Tyron Woodley. He lost a split decision to. He lost to Chris Weidman, and he lost to Neil Magny at the time, when Neil Magny was actually on the rise at the time. I believe Neil was on a streak. He was doing very well back then. But his last, or one of the better strikers he fought recently was Michael Bisping. And as you know, Michael Bisping, he's got good hands, good boxer. And he's got, in my opinion, I'd say he has more power in his hands than Adesanya does. And we've seen Kelvin walk through that and take him out. So I'm going Kelvin here, man. I think that's what's going to happen here. I think he's going to kind of do what Justin Gaethje did last week, and kind of just come up close and brawl with Adesanya and TKO him. And I'm picking the 3rd round as well.
Okay. So we've got same round, opposite guys.
Yep, same round, same TKO, just different guys.
All right, man. We'll see. We'll
definitely see. And let's go ahead and talk about the main event here, though. The main event, of course, is Max Holloway, which is the GOAT in my eyes at 145 versus Dustin Poirier. So who you got here and why?
This one is a lot more difficult for me to pick. And it's really because of my heart. Like, I love both these guys. I absolutely love both these guys. It's important to note that this fight is a rematch. They did fight a long time ago in 2012, and Dustin Poirier was able to get out a submission victory over a young Max Holloway,
Yep.
who was making his UFC debut.
Yeah, triangle in the first.
Mounted triangle. Yeah, handed Max Holloway his first loss, and obviously Max Holloway's grown to be the beast that we know him as today. But Dustin Poirier, after his embarrassing loss to Conor McGregor, reinvented himself at lightweight and has really made a name for himself there, taking out some legends such as Eddie Alvarez, Anthony Pettis, Justin Gaethje. Let's not forget that Justin Gaethje was taken out by Dustin Poirier. He did survive that meat grinder of a man who is Justin Gaethje. So again, back to the point. Let's see. This is going to be essentially a coin flip. I'm doing it right now live on the show. I'm taking Dustin Poirier.
Ooh.
And I know that might not be the popular pick. I know that Max Holloway is the much sexier pick. But here's why. Dustin Poirier, I believe, has better grappling. So if it gets to that stage, I think Dustin Poirier will be able to, I'm not going to say dominate, but get the better of Max Holloway. And when it comes to the striking, I believe Max Holloway has a bit of a reach advantage, and Max Holloway does a great job at fighting long and using his reach at featherweight. We'll see how it matches up here with Dustin. I think that Dustin Poirier just has a bit more of a varied attack. He throws a lot more kicks and comes at stranger and more unorthodox angles with his boxing. And Max Holloway, truly, I don't see him kick very much. He's essentially mostly a boxer, and I think that's going to limit him against Poirier, and I've got Dustin Poirier by decision. A bloody, bloody, bloody decision.
We're on the opposite side of the fence yet again. Yet again, Meds. I am picking Max Holloway. Now, of course, when they fought the first time, you have to remember, as you said, it was his debut. He was a young fighter. He was a fighter that came in with good boxing, yes, but he took risks. He took some dumb risks back then. Don't you remember in that fight, he also did his flying knees and stuff that he would try, and he would get taken down often when he did those. He doesn't do those anymore like that. He doesn't throw caution to the wind anymore. He actually stands there and he does great high-level technical boxing and destroys people. And that's what I believe is going to happen here. I say he's going to beat Dustin Poirier in the second by KO. Taking the KO.
By KO or TKO?
I'm going KO.
Oh, man. Okay.
I'm saying he knocks him out. I think it's going to happen. Look, they're both great guys. I like them both. But Max Holloway, to me, is the GOAT of the 145 division. And until somebody takes him out, I'm never going against the champ. Just not.
That's sound reasoning. And you know what? Maybe I'm just trying to think outside the box here. You know what I mean?
Oh, of course.
I do think that Max Holloway is the better fighter. I do think that he's the favorite. If you look at the odds, he's probably the favorite.
There's no takebacks. There's no takebacks, Meds.
No takebacks.
But I will say this.
I will say that this fight is certainly not a gimme. It can go either way, and it's a hell of a matchup.
I will say this though. Again, you bring up strong arguments, great points, and Poirier is better on the ground. Poirier is, I think Poirier might be a more well-rounded fighter, but Max's boxing is on another level, and that's what I'm looking at here.
Best in the UFC.
Oh, I think it is. He's just amazing, and he's gotten so much better over the years. Like just watching him progress has been a joy to watch over the years. So
yeah, absolutely. He's a real example of a fighter just honing his skill and sharpening the blade and climbing all the way to the top, man.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, this card's it does not have much for us fight fans. We're gonna have to suffer through a bit of a slog before we get to the gold here at the end. But
yeah, and sometimes you never know. Some of these guys that you really haven't heard of much before, sometimes they can have incredible fights, and those are always a joy to watch as well. So I'm hoping that happens.
Yeah, like we said earlier, I'm a degenerate. I'm going to watch every fight.
Yeah. So speaking about every fight, what's coming in the way of future fights that you've heard?
Okay, so that's been a bit of a dry week as well, but we've got some good ones here. We've got the Ultimate Fighter 1 alum and champion, Diego Sanchez, who's still doing the damn thing. They've got him matched up against Michael Chiesa for July 6th in Vegas, UFC 239. That's that John Jones card.
Wow.
Sounds good to me. What do you think?
Well, I know he just got a knockout in his last fight. So, and that was impressive. I was actually shocked by that from Diego.
Yeah, Diego Sanchez showing some signs of life in 2019.
There's a heartbeat there, folks. And here's the thing. Against Michael Chiesa, though, I'm going Michael Chiesa.
Yeah, same.
I think Michael Chiesa, and we're not going to go through the whole thing because this is not our definitive pick yet. We'll leave that to the week before the fight. But as of right now, I would say Michael would win that fight.
Absolutely. Especially now at welterweight. Diego's undersized. Yeah, Diego's a dog, but every dog has his day. And
yeah,
Michael
definitely.
Chiesa should run through him. So if you were paying attention during the summer, I believe, Bellator sent over their bantamweight champion, Darian Caldwell, to fight Rizen's bantamweight champion, Kyoji Horiguchi. And Kyoji Horiguchi came out victorious in that fight. And I believe he's on a 13 or 14 fight win streak since he's left the UFC. Hell of a run. So he won the title from him then. And now Kyoji Horiguchi is going to be coming over to Bellator.
Nice.
Yeah, he's going to be coming over to Bellator to fight Darian Caldwell in a rematch and hopefully take his Bellator crown.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really
Very
interesting.
Cross promotion is awesome.
Yeah, I like that. I would like to see some cross promotion with one championship as well, because Wakamata and Nasty Yukin got me watching those fights over there going, wow, how impressive, are these other fighters across the pond? Like, we had no idea. So,
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, I'm all for this kind of cross promotion. This is awesome.
The fact that Horiguchi can win the Bellator belt as well, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really awesome news. Now, who would you take in this fight?
I'd take Darian Caldwell in this rematch here. I picked him the first time. I was wrong, obviously, but I'll take him again. That's definitely one to look out for. Hopefully, maybe one day Rizin could do a cross promotion with one championship and they could fight,
honestly,
match up Demetrius Johnson again. Honestly,
I would like to see one championship do it with the UFC, especially since they've done this trade and everything. Maybe do something there with a super fight, because honestly, it's got people making videos. Now, I've seen people make videos on, does the UFC really have the best fighters? Because, Meds, people are actually questioning it now. I mean, especially after what happened to Eddie Alvarez and the great opponent against my boy, Demetrius Johnson.
Speaking of Fonz, did you see Eddie Alvarez's post on Instagram?
No.
After his fight?
No.
So that punch from Nasty Yukin that took him out, you could find it if you dig a little bit through Twitter. Man, Eddie said that it felt like his eye exploded from the inside. And I saw a picture close up of his eye. The punch split each of his eyelids in one eye in half. They had to stitch his eyelids back together.
Oh.
It was nasty. When you see that picture, you'll see why Eddie turtled up and got blasted the way he did, because that eye looked.
Oh man, I see it now, and I'm gonna put it up here for the people to see at home.
Show the people.
Yeah, gosh, it's nasty.
Yeah, that's what happens when you fight other men in cages for a living. We've got one more here. So our boy Jack the Joker Hermanson, who put on a hell of a performance. When was it? Last week against David Branch. He is being tapped as a replacement versus Jacare Souza. Jacare Souza was supposed to fight Yoel Romero in a rematch in Miami, I believe, or Fort Lauderdale, actually, in 2 weeks. For some reason or another, they're not specifying. Actually, no, it's pneumonia. Yeah, he got pneumonia. That sucks. Hopefully he gets better. Yoel Romero's got pneumonia, so Jack Hermanson is going to be taking on Jacare Souza, man. I'm very interested in this. What do you think?
Cue the Braveheart music, okay? Cue it now. I'm just kind of, hyped on Hermanson after what he did his last fight. Look, Jacare is a strong, very well-rounded fighter. He's been in the game for so long. I've been watching Jacare for a long time now, Meds. Definitely one of my favorite fighters to watch in the octagon. Great fighter, especially his ground game is phenomenal. So we got Hermanson, his ground game looking decent. Jacare, we already know, has a phenomenal ground game. It's going to be interesting to see whose ground game wins out, because that's where it's going, right? So, man, if I had a gun to my head, who would I choose here? I'm going Jacare, hands down.
Of course. But For the hell of it, I'm picking Hermanson. He's so fun.
I know, like that's why I said cue the Braveheart music because I'd like to see this guy win. But come on, it's Jacare. He's one of the most phenomenal grapplers in the UFC today. One of the best jiu-jitsu guys out there. So I mean, I got to go with him.
And you know what? If Jacare wins this, he pretty much keeps his spot in line for a title shot because I do think he after this interim title fight resolves and the winner fights Whitaker, then Jacare is going to be right there. So he needs to make sure he does not take Hermanson lightly and keeps his spot because Hermanson could sneak in there.
Well, I guess that's it. You got anything else to add before we go?
No, that's all I got for this week.
All right, cool. So let's go ahead and close out the show, Meds.
Well, this was Fight Culture for the week of April 7th, 2019. You can find me, Jay Medina, on Twitter at @TheRealMeds_. Find Jay Fonzarelli here. Where?
At Jay Fonzarelli.
On Twitter. There you go. And on YouTube as well. You can follow Fight Culture on Twitter at Fight Culture Pod. And I will be taking over and live tweeting the fights this Saturday. So keep it locked on there to hear our thoughts and opinions. And I will be making fun of Jay Fonzarelli when my picks are correct and his are not.
Oh, we're going to have to fight about that one, man. Maybe we have to. No, I take that back. I'm not fighting against you. You've had some training. I haven't. All right, man.
I'm retired. Well, this has been Fight Culture, everybody. Thanks for listening. Hands up, chin down, let them fly.
Until next time, folks.